Hey everyone, this is To The Point. Welcome into another Big Money Friday where we get into all things gambling in the world of football. We get into the betting lines for every game this coming weekend. We are going to talk about some college football stories. A lot of good stuff coming on the podcast today. In about 30 minutes time, Walker Campbell, who hasn't been on the pod in a little while, is going to join me. Matt Wright, our usual Friday guest, is out. He's in Beantown this weekend. He's actually going to be watching the Boston College Louisville football game tomorrow afternoon, which I'm stoked for him. I will have to say I'm extremely jealous. I've never been to a football game live, and he gets to see Louisville with Malik Cunningham at quarterback play. I could go on about how jealous I am of Ryder, but good on him. I hope he enjoys it, and he'll be back on very soon. But we're lucky to have Walker on in just a little bit. And he's a big gambling guy. He's going to have some interesting takes. Also a big Bills fan, Bills Mafia. So we'll get his insight into the loss last weekend against the Dolphins and all of that minutia. But today, you have to start with the Rasmus Sandin signing. Just kidding. No, we're not starting with that today. We're going to start with Thursday Night Football, but we're going to start with the bigger issue here. I think I'm not a parent, but I have two good ones. And when I was a kid, I loved to swim. I still love to swim. I've done some stupid stuff swimming. I've gone off banks. I've done dumb stuff, right? But when you're a kid, and let's just say you have a big meal, and your parent says, okay, Noah, don't go swimming right now. You just had a huge meal. It's not that safe. It's not a smart decision. Well, normally I'd listen to my parents, and you might be upset at the time because you want to go in the water because you're a kid and you're petulant and you want to do what you want to do when you want to do it. Some could argue many people are still like that, myself included, but looking back through my 24 years of life, I think my parents were right with that assumption. Mixing this together, when it looks like you have a concussion on a Sunday and an organization dusts it off and they say, well, no, he's got a back issue, it's an ankle, but it looks to everybody on the screen, which there are millions of people watching TV, not everybody's a doctor, but I think most people can see concussion-like symptoms. It doesn't take a doctor to figure that out. And then you come out and say, the person that we think had a concussion just 3 days ago is going to play in an NFL game on a Thursday night, on a short week nonetheless. That doesn't seem like a smart decision. That seems like the kid going back into the water after the parent saying, no, please wait half an hour so your food can digest. It's going to be better for you, and it's going to be better for the parent. The parent feels good about their decision. They were smart in parenting. Their kid's safer. And oh, by the way, you get to digest your meal. You get to stay in the water longer, and you don't feel like you're sinking after having that large meal. Last night, the Miami Dolphins committed organizational malpractice by letting Tua Tagovailoa play in that game. I said on Monday that he should not have played in the second half. This isn't instant analysis. This is me repeating the same opinion, and unfortunately, I'm right. Of course, all of us in this opinion game want to be right all the time. We're not. I'm right. I'm wrong all the time. I'm just different because I'll admit it. But looking at what happened, you dress it up with a back, with an ankle, whatever injury you want to throw at the wall, just to make sure that your quarterback can play on a Thursday night in Cincinnati, Ohio. I don't care if the Dolphins were 0-3. Tua Tagovailoa should not have been playing last night. But even to throw it into the equation, the Dolphins are 3-0. They have not lost. They are 2-0 in their division. They beat the Bills. How could they have gotten any better? Dress Teddy. But this is organizational malpractice by a bad organization. Mike McDaniel is a good head coach. That doesn't change the facts. But why have the Dolphins been terrible for 20 plus years? That's not just bad luck. That's not just, we can't draft a quarterback. No, it's because you've had stupid ownership. It's because you've had dumb people in high positions for a long time. Period. Bad things happen to bad people normally in life. Normally it balances out. Brett Favre, case in point. But you have a bad organization making decisions, bad things happen to bad organizations. Dolphins have stunk forever. Jets have stunk forever. It's not just because Belichick and Brady were in the same division. You could have drafted a quarterback. You could have made your organization better. You could have made smarter decisions. You didn't. The Miami Dolphins last night got karma. There can be two opinions today that are equally as truthful. I feel horrible for Tua. I feel horrible that Tua Tagovailoa has a concussion. That when he got hit last night, it looked like he broke his neck. It was scary. And I feel horrible for him. The fact that he went home on the team plane last night is a bit jarring to me, quite frankly. I find even that scary. Again, we're still relying on the Dolphins to give us medical updates, who I don't trust at all. Believe me, I grew up a Dolphins fan. I'm no longer a Dolphins fan, but I know what it's like to root for a shit organization. I grew up a Dolphin fan. I grew up a Leaf fan. I know failure. It was in my blood. My parents raised me to lose. I love them to death, but it's true. You look at, he flies home in the charter plane. So that is a truth that I hope he's okay. That I pray, even though I'm not religious, that he is going to be fine. But there's also another opinion that you can have and say, this is what Miami fucking deserved. Because you put a guy out there knowing he's at risk and you let it happen. And if the argument back to me is Noah, did you see him before the concussion? He played really well. Okay. That's the argument? That's the pushback from the right or the left. Everyone, if this is a religious topic, if this is a political topic, the right's coming over the top with this opinion. Okay. I'll come from the left and say, sure, he played really well before he got injured. True. But because he was concussed 3 days before, don't you think he'd be more likely to get a concussion if he suffered a big hit? Don't you think that's high probability? Isn't that a better odds because he just had one? He just got his bell rung the other day, 3 days ago, to put it direct. Aren't there better odds he's going to get hurt again? I would think so. Also, adding to this story of just incredible arrogance, incredible stupidity from the Miami Dolphins, you finally have a team that people care about. You finally have a team that people root for, that people can hope. Dolphins fans have had no hope. I talked about this lots. Have had no hope for 20 years. What's one game? Are the Dolphins, were they thinking they're going to go 20-0? Was the Cincinnati game that fucking important? You know who you got in week 5? The Jets. I think that's going to be a win if Tua sits out this game. Teddy Two Gloves starts on a Thursday night. I think that's a win against the Jets. I'm hedging, but I think that's a win. So you say you throw the game away last night, even though Teddy played quite well in relief. He throws the game away. You throw a game away, okay, give it to the Bengals. They're 2-2. They're not in your division. You're not competing with them. Could you be competing for a wild card down the road? Sure. But they win. They're 2-2. You have 3 wins. You're 3-1. Not to mention the Bengals have a way tougher schedule than you do. They get to still play the Browns twice. You got 2 games against the Jets. You have another game against the Patriots that could very well be with Brian Hoyer at quarterback. There's no instance where this makes any sense. The days of, well, we got to put him back in. is over. The sports world has changed where I don't care what it was like 10, 20, 30 years ago, where people were tougher and they were real men and you had a concussion, you go back in the game. Those days are over. That was stupid back then. It was barbarian, just people. It was barbaric society where, oh, you got a concussion in a game, you go back in because that's what men do. It's what stupid people do, because people that have that opinion then see their favorite athletes 20 years later and they're not right. They have concussions. They have mental illness. They end up killing themselves. Look at Derek Bugard in the NHL. Rick Rippon. Wade Belak. This happens all the time. And you know why? Because they had concussions and their coaches, the organization, people around them had the mentality, get back in there. You slap them on the ass and you say, get back in the game, young man, because that's what you did. It made no sense back then, but we were in 2022 where we have more medicine, more studies, more everything to know that makes no sense. It makes no sense. You're watching last night, you're thinking, even if you're a Dolphin fan, you're thinking, is it smart for Tua to be playing? What if you were if you were a father out there and you have that opinion and you're watching Tua, what if that was your kid? Would he be in the game playing? I don't think so. But it's your sports team, so you got to get back in there. No. We have scientific data that tells us that concussions are very, very life-threatening. That not treating them correctly can lead to neurological damage that can affect your life forever. I mentioned fighters in the NHL. How about Monador? You ever read that book by Ken Dryden? It's scary, this stuff. It happens. It happens in football. We see lawsuits all the time from people that just can't handle it. This is my thought. The NFL and the NFLPA have to act. The NFL failed the concussion protocol test on Sunday, and they thought they could get away with it. And that door opened last night with an emphatic, nope, you're not going to get away from it, because Tua got seriously hurt, stretchered off, taken immediately to the hospital. So here's the rub. Here's what I propose. To me, the Miami Dolphins sounds a ton of money. They should be fined a large sum of money for putting their quarterback at risk. Make it more than $10 million. Whatever it is, fine them. The NFL should be meeting with their people, with the PA, with their collective bargaining agreement, should have a new setup for concussions. An event like last night should start instant change. We saw what happened with George Floyd. That changed the world overnight. You could say it did and it didn't. There's still going to be racism. But did it change a lot of people's thoughts? Did it happen where families started to have conversations about race relations, about people, impoverished people, about black people who are getting pulled over by cops for no reason other than the color of their skin? Absolutely. I know it did in my household. One event can spark instant change. And unfortunately for TT, last night he has to be the guinea pig. He has to be the person to wear it. He has to be the Colin Kaepernick, if you will, of this concussion movement, to say this has to change. This can't be what happens when somebody has a concussion. When we think somebody is dealing with something, it can't be, oh, well, let's get back in the game, or he can play 3 days later. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Players, organizations will do whatever they can to pass a concussion protocol test. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal because it's about winning and it's about making money. Money trumps everything in life. Your ethics, your morals, your principles, they're pushed to the wayside for most people. These organizations, these sports teams, they don't care. Because the thought last night, or not the thought last night, but the thought in general is, if Tua gets hurt, we'll get another quarterback. Maybe we'll get Brady this offseason, he's a free agent. That is the thought process. It's not about the player. It's about, well, we can get another guy. We can replace him. It's a barbaric way to think. But we have to think about the athletes. Because without players like Tua, there is no product. Nobody's watching. The money dries away. Because nobody's in the stands to watch you play. Tua's not bigger than the sport. But if concussions pile up, if your sport is just filled with lawsuits, filled with controversy, how many parents are going to sign their kids up for football? How many parents are going to be okay sending their child into this sport knowing my young boy, my little boy, because that's what he is. My mother always says that to me. You always be my little boy. I'm 24. How comfortable are you going to feel knowing that the team that drafts your son, the college school that has your kid for 3 to 4 years, that they don't care about him? Okay, yeah, there's new NIL deals. Yes, they'll give him a contract, but they don't care about his well-being. They don't care that his mental health, that he's got a concussion, you're going to play him 3 days later. That we're willing to risk your son's long-term future for a short-term gain. We're willing to risk Tua Tagovailoa's rest of his life for a Week 4 game against the Cincinnati Bengals. If that isn't selfish, I don't know what is. I don't know what selfish is other than that. That is the literal definition of selfish behavior, of money, of wanting to get out of the pit of despair, ineptitude, and irrelevancy is. One game trumped the rest of the season, trumped his long-term health, and trumped morals. I feel so horrible for Tua Tagovailoa. He deserves better than what the Miami Dolphins did for him yesterday, because they did nothing but put him in harm's way. They did nothing but hurt him. The Miami Dolphins play in 9 days. What are the odds Tua plays? I'm going to put it right now, 0. Because you just took a huge moment. You just had a national stage, Amazon, Thursday Night Football. It's the only game of the evening. And it was right face value for you to see. Nobody else could flick to another game. What else were you watching? Aaron Judge wasn't going to hit his 62nd home run. The Yankees were idle. Were you flicking to Utah State against BYU? Maybe. But I'd say most of the world last night, if you're a sports fan, were watching Bengals Dolphins. So the whole fans of the NFL saw that moment last night. The NFL couldn't skate from it. Tua played against the Bills. It might have been the biggest game of the weekend, but at the 2 o'clock start of games, you have 8 other games that people are following. The red zone isn't just focused on Bills Dolphins. You can get away with that type of behavior, putting a guy in when he shouldn't have been brought back in. Last night, you don't. You have to wear it. You have to you show the world that you made a dumb, stupid decision that was completely selfish. Tua's back in Miami. I hope he's okay. He got released from the hospital, which again, I'm still not fully comfortable with. But to me, odds that Tua Tagovailoa plays next Sunday against the New York Jets are 0. Even if he's healthy, I don't think the Dolphins optically can play him, because they are going to take it on the chin for the next week. They are going to have to wear the fact that their incompetence may cost them a season. Maybe Tua doesn't play again this year. I don't know. Maybe it's a really serious concussion. They don't just go away after 3 days. To me, this is his second concussion in 4 days. Just because they didn't tell us he had one before doesn't mean he didn't have one. I hope the Dolphins face a penalty. I hope the NFL addresses this right away, because they have to. And this is a quarterback. This is an O-lineman. It doesn't get as much publicity because it's an O-lineman, but it's a quarterback on one of the 2 undefeated teams in the NFL. Tua's a talk of the town on shows in the United States. Why? Because he's a polarizing guy. Is he a good quarterback? There's a constant debate about Tua. And you see him go down. It's a horrible, horrible scene. I mean, it overshadows the entire game last night. It overshadows Tyreek Hill having a great game. It overshadows T. Higgins having a great game. The Miami defense playing another really solid game. It overshadows Cincinnati covering the line. That doesn't matter, because it's more about the situation than it was the outcome of the game. I know if I'm a leader, if I'm a member of the Players Association, I'm meeting with people today and talking about this, because you should want this rectified. You should want a better solution for players than what the NFL currently has, which is, well, just play and we'll see what happens. That's not a good solution. That's not a solution. It's masking a bigger deal, a bigger problem. Concussions have been around sports forever. They will continue forever. Contact sports, it's impossible to take the physicality out of contact sports, and that's not what I'm advocating for. If you listen to me on this podcast, you know I like physicality. I watch football because of the physicality. Hockey, with the regular season, has become less entertaining because there's less physicality. But I'm not saying you check people from behind. You can get a nice open ice check that is good to watch, that brings intensity into the game. It doesn't have to be checking from behind, murdering people. It doesn't have to be Scott Stevens delivering really dirty hits. That's not what I'm advocating for. Keep the physicality. But if there is a scenario where a player is injured, where to me in life, and what I've figured out is it's better to be safe than sorry. I didn't have that opinion when I was a kid. I hated that thought. Again, bringing it back to my initial analogy. My mother, don't go swimming after a meal. Or you had 2 beer. Should I drive? Well, I better be safe than sorry. It's better to call somebody. It's always better to do that. Okay, you had 2 beer. Yes, you're not drunk, but what if you drive home, you go through a spot check, you get a DUI, you'll lose your license. It's better to hop in the cab. It's better to call your mother. It's whatever the situation is, it's better to be safe than sorry. In life. Wearing a seatbelt, that's something I don't do that often. It's something I should do more. It's better to be safe than sorry. That pencils into this whole conversation. You don't want to feel like somebody's just keeping you so safe. You don't want to feel like you're in a muzzle. But at the same time, if we are watching sports today and we think somebody's got their bell rung, that somebody is injured, that somebody's going through a traumatic head injury, it's better to pull that guy from the game and say, you know what? Better be safe than sorry. You can play tomorrow night. To me, that is where we're pivoting in the world. That's where we're going because I think that's just a better solution than what currently is available. It's not smart to, oh, well, it's a man's game, you stay in. No. Go get checked. The test also has to be difficult. It can't be what quarter are you in or how many things. I think you can bluff your way through these tests. I heard Luke Wilson on Overdrive this week talk about he had a concussion. He said multiple. He said you can get through the test pretty easily because they're easy questions. And they basically ask you questions that they know you're going to know the answer to so you can get back into the game. You can bluff your way through it. To me, they should be really extremely difficult questions that a right-minded person would know. How about who's the president of the United States? Or who's the first Batman? I don't know. It's just questions that aren't based entirely on football. Things that everybody should know. Who did Harrison Ford play in Star Wars? Don't you think if you're right-minded, you'd know that? Again, I don't know all the questions that you should have, but to me, what quarter is it? Come on. You can bluff your way. It's a 1 in 4 guess. And if you got hurt after the first quarter, it's you had a 33 and a third % chance of getting the question right. Past second quarter, you got a 50% chance of getting it right. Change this system today. But this is karma for the Miami Dolphins. This organization with Stephen Ross, tampering, dumb owner, bad ownership forever, bad management. They don't know how to do anything there. They don't draft well. They've been in that forever. It's not surprising that an organization that has been failing for a long time continues to fail. Chargers with injuries. Is that bad luck or is there a common theme here? All I know is the past 5 years, the Chargers are the most injured team in the NFL. I don't think all of that's bad luck. Do you remember in the early 2000s, the Phoenix Suns, how injured they were? Steve Nash, Jermaine O'Neal, Amari Stoudemire, they had a really good team. Really good team. 2 conference finals. But in the middle of those years, they had the most man games lost back-to-back years. You know what they had to do? They had to fire their medical staff. They fired their training staff because they couldn't keep anybody healthy. Their recommended work did not work. They brought in new people. Yes, Sarvers is still the owner for now, but they brought in a new president of basketball ops. They brought in a new general manager, all new people because Sarver and what his mindset was not working. Stupidity brings stupidity. Smart people normally make smart decisions. Most of the time. But I don't know. But I see we got a smart guy on the line, so I'm going to bring him in here. Hasn't been on the show in a little bit, but glad to see him back on now. It's a friend of the show, Walker Campbell. Walker, how are things?
I'm good. Thanks for the flattering opening, calling me a smart guy.
Oh, I can't.
Am I good?
Just a second. I'm going to. You got me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hmm.
Is it
Okay.
me? Wait.
Sorry, buddy. Just checking my mic here. It is on. Let's see, we got Walker back in here.
Can you hear me now?
No, I don't know. This it's been working the last little while. I don't know what. Let's see if it's my settings here. Do you got me now?
You can't hear me though?
Yo, I got you. There
Oh,
we
you
go.
got me? Okay.
Yeah, I got you. There we go. No, sorry, but yeah, my friggin' microphone cut out on me, so that's my fault. But
No, I could
walk.
uh I could I could hear you the whole time. I thought it was
Yeah,
me.
stupid microphone. Good to see you. How are things?
I'm good. I wanted to say thanks for calling me a smart guy. Not every day I get that compliment, so I really appreciate that. Oh no, I'm glad to be back on the show, and I honestly couldn't have picked a better show to be on.
Yeah, I knew you were coming on today, and I thought it was great that you're. Obviously, what happened last night was really unfortunate, but I wanted to ask you, with playing so much competitive hockey, did you ever have any concussions in your playing days?
So I was pretty fortunate. I never suffered any concussions playing hockey. I had some pretty other major injuries. I had like a broken wrist, some
Right.
torn ligaments, stuff like that. But yeah, concussions are scary. I've seen guys get them playing hockey, and they're definitely no joke. Like, and I felt so bad for Tua last night. He got slammed to the ground very
Yeah.
hard, and I think it's just the backlash they're getting from last week where he was it seemed pretty convincingly he was shook up, possibly concussed, and the fact that they brought him back in, they let him play this week, and now he's he has a concussion. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, it's definitely scary, and I'm glad he's okay though. I heard he's back in
Yeah.
Miami. Hopefully, they're taking care of him there, but definitely a scary moment. I mean, especially you see him like with his fingers all
Yeah.
stiffened up. I knew it wasn't a good sign as soon as I saw that. But, oh, he got thrown to the ground hard.
Yeah, I thought it might have been his neck when I initially saw it because it was such a, like you said, his fingers. That's such a scary scene when you see the neurological damage that can happen from that. And I'm sure you've had teammates that have had concussions. Have you ever seen somebody return from a concussion after 3 days? Playing on a Sunday, then playing a Thursday night from a concussion.
Who? I mean, it's definitely happened. I think most guys I've played with usually they're usually off for a week or two, and I've even in the case where some guys where they're basically in their room with the lights off for like a
Yeah,
whole week. Just the dim light causes problems for them. So it's definitely not. It's something you definitely have to take with precaution, and not try to rush back because I mean you only have one brain, right? So you don't
yeah.
want to. Yeah, I mean, you see what happens with ex football players in the CTE and all that. So yeah, I've had a few teammates get concussions, but nobody's been back in a couple days. No.
No, I find that great, and even with football, it's so dangerous, and yeah, it's and also I thought of all the times they call roughing the passer in the NFL that aren't roughing the passer. I thought last night's was pretty easy. He, like you said, he slammed him to the ground extremely hard, then celebrated when he was on the ground. I thought of everything that was definitely a roughing the passer that did not get called.
Yeah, I was watching the game live and I said that's a penalty right there. I see he just tossed them to the ground, and I saw how hard he hit. I said, "Oh, that must have hurt." And then I look. Then the camera shows him seizing up. But yeah,
Mhm.
that was definitely a roughing the passer. Like he had every intention on trying to throw him to the ground and hurting him. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't one of those like accidental plays. Like earlier, I think earlier in the game, one of the defensive players for the Bengals, I think he went to go block the throw
Mhm.
and he ended up landing on his ankle. I thought that was kind of a iffy call, but
Yeah,
yeah,
me
there
too.
was no there was no question about this one at all.
What have you made of the Bengals so far? They're 2-2, and they get a win last night, but it's kind of marred with Tua not playing the entire game. The Bengals offense didn't look great, but they're 2-2 now, and you could say it's a big win for them. They beat one of the two remaining unbeaten teams in all of football.
Yeah, it was definitely a big win for them. I mean, the Dolphins just played horrible though. Like aside from Tyreek Hill, everyone
Hmm.
was terrible. Their run game was non-existent.
Yeah,
I got this written down. Mostert, 15 rushes for 69 yards. That is awful. Edmonds, 5 rushes for 6 yards, which is terrible. Their second longest rush was Teddy Bridgewater for
scramble.
11 yards. Scramble. So, and this is the thing with Miami is I think everyone's been a little too high on them. Uh,
Mhm.
I know they beat Baltimore and Buffalo, probably two of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFL. But they had no business winning either of those games, if I'm being quite honest. There
Mhm.
is no way they should have beaten Baltimore. That was a miracle. Uh, Even the Buffalo game, Buffalo they doubled them in time of possession, doubled them in yards. They had like 90 some plays,
For
and
30.
they just could. They just couldn't capitalize. So, they could easily Miami could easily be 1-3 right now instead of 3-1. But yeah, big win for the Bengals. I hope they start to turn it around. But a big story for them. I feel like Jamar Chase has been kind of invisible these first few games.
Yeah, he didn't catch a pass till the fourth quarter, and then he had to catch a pass from Tyler Boyd on that trick play, so he wasn't exactly a focal point of the offense. But yeah, your Bills last week. Yeah, last week's game was one of the weirdest games I've ever watched because, like you said, 90 plays to 39 on offense. It was almost as if the defense was just like, okay, Buffalo, keep playing because it was so hot. Stephon Diggs was cramping; he couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah.
It was so damn hot in that swamp in Miami. As a member of the Bills Mafia, how do you feel about the Bills through 3 games?
I'm pretty happy with their play. I would have liked for them to have beaten Miami, but they're not going to go 20-0. I know
Mhm.
everyone's been raving and ranting about them, and it's kind of been annoying me. Everyone's been putting them on this pedestal,
Right.
like how most talk shows talk about LeBron James every single day. Like I'm a LeBron guy, but I don't want to hear about him every day. And every
Right.
day it's Bills, Bills, Bills. But I know I'm happy. I think their offense is they have so many weapons. Stephon Diggs playing amazing. Gabe Davis is really coming to his own, and even Isaiah McKenzie had a pretty big
Mhm.
game last game. They just need to get better in like situational football. Like I don't know what happened at the end of the first half in that game. I don't
Yeah.
know if he fumbled the spike or if it was a trick play, but it was just stupid. Like obviously, if he fumbled the spike, I mean that's still a mistake on his part.
Mhm.
And I know Josh Allen has been known to kind of make those mistakes in the situational football games. Like they should have easily won that game. And I mean, Miami was just handing it to them with that butt punt at the end. But overall, I think they'll bounce back from that. I think they'll win this weekend and get back on track. It's just one game.
Yeah, they got an interesting game this weekend. Really, one of the best games of the weekend with Baltimore as they head to Baltimore. But yeah, I agree with you. I think as a sports fan, you never want your team to be talked about that much.
No.
I think you get really insecure about it when your team is. Everybody's like, "Well, your team's the best." I grew up a Leafs fan, so I never got to hear that. So I never experienced it. So I don't know what it's like to know when your team's viewed as the best. And again, so I was just used to failure. But I think you want to be somewhere in the middle. And the Bills again. Like I agree with you, 20-0, and I know a guy me and you both enjoy, Nick Wright. Likes putting them down as a Chiefs fan, but I think they're still very good. I do think it is important that they need to win a close game, yeah, and they need to prove that they can do it. I think they will get that test this weekend because Lamar is playing as good or better than anybody in the National Football League right now.
Oh yeah, he's playing unreal. He's definitely showing the Baltimore Ravens that they made a huge mistake not giving him that contract this offseason, because if he continues the way he is, they're gonna have to pay him. Like I don't know what their plan is, but he's gonna ask for more money if he continues this way. I mean, he has more touchdowns than pretty much every, like, rushing and throwing, than like every single team in the NFL, except for I think the Lions,
Yeah,
who are
I
a
know.
sneaky team this year.
Yeah, the
Holy,
Lions.
but
I like the Lions too. I like the
yeah.
Lions too.
But yeah, it's I think it's going to be the best game of the either that one or the Chiefs Bucks game. I think will
Right.
be the top games this weekend. I no, I can't wait. I think it's going to be I think it'll be high scoring because Baltimore's defense hasn't really been that amazing, and I know the Bills are pretty banged up in the secondary, so it'll be a good game. It basically, I think it's the top two, three MVP candidates going at it.
Yeah, and I think for me, the two best teams in the AFC so far. I mean, Baltimore's got that defense, and maybe Cincinnati will turn it around. But I like Baltimore a little bit more. So yeah, the line is Buffalo versus at Baltimore. Baltimore is a +3, so Buffalo's a -3 favorite
Uh,
on the road. What do you make of this line, and where would you go with it on the gambling front?
it's a tough one. I put a lot of thought into this one. I think if I was going to hit this one, which I don't think I will, because
Hmm.
really this one's almost like a pick 'em, right? Like
Right.
two of the top teams, you don't really know. I'm surprised that the Bills have the -3. I thought it'd be a little closer than that. If I were to bet on this, I would probably go Bills -3, and I would take the over, which is, I think this morning it was at 51.
Right.
I would do Bills -3, over 51 points. I think it'll be a high scoring affair. And I think the Bills, after kind of an embarrassing loss,
Hmm.
will I think they're gonna have a little chip on their shoulder, have a big bounce back game.
I also think the Bills defense should be rested because they hardly played on Sunday. If
Yeah.
39 plays, Von Miller will be hungry to get to a quarterback if he can catch Lamar Jackson. So I might look at like a sack prop for a Von Miller, even an Ed Oliver, because I think like I said, I think this defense will be fresh against the Ravens. And as you mentioned, I wouldn't hate the over either. And Stephon Diggs, I would expect him to have a big day because, as you just mentioned, the Baltimore safety isn't the Baltimore defense in the secondary has not been good this year, and Buffalo is going to have to address undrafted free agents and rookies, potentially Xavier Rhodes, who they brought in for a visit, so he might have to play coming off the street. So look for a lot of deep passes down the field because they might be there for Rashad Bateman, who's really coming into his own. And as you mentioned, I mean, anybody on the Bills can run a deep crosser because they're all burner wide receivers for Josh Allen.
Yeah, what's the prop for Stephon Diggs receptions?
I
Would you
think
know?
it's 5.5.
5.5. Ooh, that's
I
a
saw that on a book, but again, they're all they change. But
yeah.
I I would love that. Even if it was 6.5, 7, I would probably hammer it because Josh Allen just loves throwing him the ball.
Oh yeah. I if it is 5 or 6, I would hammer it with
Mm,
a lot of money because I think after last week, I guess he still had a decent week. I think he had 7 or 8 receptions, but
yeah.
I mean he was cramping bad. Uh, but yeah, I think that's a good prop. Most props for this game would be good to hit because it should be high scoring. Sneaky touchdown, anytime touchdown for this game. I really like Devin Duvernay from the
Hmm.
Ravens.
Hmm.
He's been quietly good. I have him
Yes.
in a couple of my fantasy teams, and he's been quietly good for me.
Yeah, Tyler
And
Bass. Here's a just a word of advice for Tyler Bass, the Bills kicker. Do not kick him the football. When you kick that thing out of the end zone because he's brought one back already. Last week he returned one till the New England 40. Plus he got a touchdown on that same drive. He's a skilled guy and he's incredibly fast. So yeah, I like Lamar's receivers. Finally, it's funny how you give a guy a receiver who can catch, get Hollywood Brown the hell out of town, have a guy who can catch a football, and you start to have some success.
that's hilarious. His last he didn't he have like 13 receptions last weekend
13
and not
receptions.
no touchdowns.
No,
Oh
Arizona did
my
not put up
gosh.
a touchdown last weekend, and they had I don't over 400 yards of offense. Did not put up a touchdown.
That's insane. What a weird weekend. The first 3 weeks of the NFL have been just so weird and super frustrating uh,
Yes,
for my bank account.
agreed. Yes, thankfully college I'm starting to see the board well, but yeah, the NFL is just it's been incredibly frustrating. Let's move to the London game, 10:30 kickoff Friday morning. Sorry, Sunday morning, Minnesota versus New Orleans. New Orleans. Last time I checked, they're +3, but I read this morning, Jameis is unlikely to play, and also Michael Thomas has been ruled out for this game. So I would not be surprised if this is bet up because of those circumstances. But what do you like in this game?
Yeah, I when I checked my app this morning, I used a bet 365. It was at
Right.
Vikings -2.5. And I would definitely hit the
Hammer
fight
that.
if that line is still standing. I will definitely lock that in after this podcast because the Saints are awful. I
Yes.
I don't know how to describe it in any other way. They've just been terrible, terrible. Jameis has been terrible. He's banged up. Michael Thomas, like you said, he had a good first game back,
Mm.
but he's been quiet since, injured. Taysom Hill, good first game, but he's Taysom Hill.
They need to use him more. They don't use him. I
Yeah,
don't know why?
it's he is like a Swiss army knife, right? Like he can
Yeah.
kind of do like a little bit of everything. You'd think he'd be more involved, but they've just been a wreck all season, and the Vikings are. I think Justin Jefferson's due for a big game here. So
Mhm.
because he's
Mhm.
been quiet the last 2 weeks, so I expect a big game from him. And yeah, I Vikings -2.5 or even -3. I would
Yeah.
I would lock that in.
Agreed. Yeah. If for everybody that's wondering, the backup quarterback for New Orleans is the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. He's somehow going to get another start in the NFL. He's still kicking around. He's in New Orleans now, so he might be playing on Sunday in London, England, of all places. The Red Rifle. So pay homage to the Queen with that red hair. It's only fitting. Andy Dalton gets the start gets the start at Wembley. Interesting game here, Walker, for me, the line anyway. Cleveland at Atlanta. Last time I checked, which was last night, Atlanta +1. Is that what you had on your
Yep,
line?
that's what I had to.
I find it crazy that it's only +1. I thought this would be -4.5 or at least -3 because normally you get three. The favorite's going to get 3 points. This tells me the books are respecting the Atlanta offense and the Atlanta weapons.
Or they are disrespecting Jacoby Brissett big time.
Right.
Uh yeah, this line is weird to me. I didn't think it'd be at 1 as well. It almost seems like they're trying to trick you. I think there's going to be so many people hitting the Browns -1, -1.5, and they've been really good so far. They should be 3-0 if it wasn't
Yes.
for the Joe Flacco
Miracle.
miracle there. Yeah, but no, they've been running the ball super well. Jacoby Brissett's been doing basically as much as he can to keep the team afloat until Deshaun Watson comes back.
Mhm.
But with that said, he is Jacoby Brissett. He's
Yeah.
gonna he's going to have a bad game eventually.
Right. Agreed.
And I don't think the Falcons are very good, but do have some they've been putting up points. They've been good at putting up points. They have
They
some
can
decent
score.
players.
Yeah.
Drake London is really good. He's gonna be very good, very good. Kyle Pitts still waiting for him. Maybe this is a big breakout game for him. Marcus Mariota, not that good, but he's been
Right.
surprisingly better than I thought he would be this year.
Right.
So if I was gonna bet, I'd probably do the Browns -1, but I think Vegas is trying to trick us here.
Yeah, I mean, Cordero Patterson's a sneaky guy too for Atlanta.
Yes.
He's another Swiss Army knife for his special teams. He runs the football.
Yeah.
He's like a fringe Hall of Famer. He's been an All Pro on special teams 5 times. I Yeah, this is just a weird. I just find it so weird. This line. I don't. I agree with your Brissett take that he's gonna have a bad game here because he hasn't had one yet. But I mean, Nick Chubb, just give him the football. I mean, the guy's a machine.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be stopped so far. I think I bet, and I like you about. I agree with you about the score about scoring because Atlanta can score. So I might take Cleveland and the over. That might be another thing here for me where I would look at it and say, I think Cleveland's a better team. I think they'll win the game, but I also think Atlanta can put up some points because Cleveland's defense has been suspect so far this season.
Yeah. It's almost like a too easy kind of bet,
Yeah,
you know. It
yeah.
just it makes you really want to make sure you like it. I don't know, but yeah, I agree with that as well.
All right. NFC East matchup: Washington Washington football team versus the Cowboys. Then the Cowboys are minus 3.5 point favorites at Jerry World.
This I don't know what to do with this one, honestly. I think I don't like the Cowboys. I don't think they're very good.
Right.
Everyone is like, "Oh, Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
Wow." I mean, he beat a Bengals team. Eh, the Cowboys have a great defense.
Yep.
Micah Parsons is amazing, and the Bengals O line is fucking trash. So they were able to take advantage of that big time, and they beat the Giants. The Giants
Yeah.
stink.
Yeah. The
Like
Giants are not good. No.
I, th- I think everyone's kind of almost overrating them at this point. I feel like they were a little underrated
Right.
after week one, but now I think they're over it. Like it's Cooper Rush. He's
It's
not
not
that
Joe
great, and
Montana. Yeah.
now and everyone's like, oh, maybe he's the starting quarterback now. Like, no,
No. No.
no. But I will say
I just look at
this is a
Washington
tough one.
Lock and they stink. Like they gave up 9 sacks last week to Philly, and Dallas's pass rush to me is better than Philly's.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard for me. I think both these teams are pretty bad, but I get if I had to lean one way, yeah,
Plus
it would be towards
Carson
the
Wentz
Cowboys.
or something. He'll do something like he doesn't throw the ball away. He took 9 sacks in a game. Throw the freaking ball away, man. Like I
Oh, yeah, he's terrible. Do you think he'll be in Washington after this year?
No, I do not. I wouldn't be surprised by the midpoint of the season that we'll see Tyler Heineke make his return to the field for the
Oh,
Commander.
he's terrible too, though.
Yeah,
Like,
he's not good. No,
he's not very good at all. If I was
no.
who a guy I would I think they should go after is Tyler Huntley from the Ravens.
Yeah. Oh,
I think
he's good. Yeah.
he's a really good backup. It'd be interesting. He has to be. I think he's better than Heineke and Wentz. Like,
Hmm.
could be a. But
I think Gardner Minshew is better than I think Gardner Minshew is better than a bunch of starting quarterbacks, but Philly is just smart and they're like, no, we're not going to give you him because if Jalen gets hurt, we still have a good chance of winning some games.
well, yeah, and that's the thing when you have a quarterback who likes to run the ball. Like same thing with the Ravens. Lamar,
Hmm.
is I think he's top 5 in rushing yards in the
Yeah,
whole
he's
league,
fourth. Fourth.
fourth, which is crazy. So to have someone like Tyler Huntley, a Gardner Minshew as your backup, someone who would be like a mid tier, low tier starter,
Yeah.
is great to have as your backup. And I mean that's and look at the 49ers. Trey Lance goes down. They have uh they have porn star Jimmy as their
Monster
backup.
Jimmy. Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's great. He just played in probably the worst football game I've ever witnessed in my life. But but he's respectable. He's good
Yes.
enough to go in and play. Like some of the backups that teams have are just nobodies that are horrible.
Yeah. How about this game? Seattle at our Lions, Detroit. Detroit is -4. They're a favorite for the second time in 4 weeks, which they were not a favorite for 3 years. So this is quite a development for Detroit. Another week where they're a favorite.
So my thing with this game is they have a lot of questionable players that I'm
Yes.
not. So if Swift plays, if Amon-Ra Brown plays,
Yep.
he's phenomenal. Uh, and I think Hawkinson is also questionable, but I think he'll probably play. They have a lot like their whole offense is like questionable. If they all play, I think they'll cover because I the Seahawks suck.
Yeah.
I don't believe in them one bit. Geno Smith, they tried to write me off. but
All right. Ain't right back. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I like the Lions. They're really explosive offense, and could you imagine if they had a quarterback that wasn't named Jared Goff? How
Yeah.
but
I mean,
he's not been bad though.
no, he's played pretty efficient this season. I mean, they should have won last week. They threw that game away
Yeah.
against Minnesota. They had that in their grip, and they just let that one go. I think to me this is a hammered Detroit. I agree. I agree with you about Swift, but they're really Dan Campbell's been really cagey about it because he said if he sits out a few weeks, it could be good. But then he's saying, well, I don't know, maybe he'll play. So he's kind of being up in the air about it. They do have Jamal Williams behind him, who is a good number two back, a good guy to have. But as you mentioned, Seattle's so terrible. They can't score any points. Four to me, if it was seven, I might consider it, but I like Detroit to cover this number.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, the Seahawks are bad. Even their running game, I thought Rashad Penny would have a monster year for them, but they're
Mhm.
just as they all say, they're just letting Geno cook,
Yeah,
which is the wrong thing to do.
wrong
Uh,
strategy.
but he's got to be top bottom 3 quarterbacks in the
Yeah,
league for
yeah.
starters. So yeah, I agree. If everyone's healthy for the Lions, I would hammer that as well.
AFC South battle. Tennessee at Indianapolis. Indianapolis -3.5.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
both
Wasn't
these teams have, I, yeah, it's a tough one for me. The Titans have been awful,
hmm.
like absolutely awful, and same with the Colts. Uh, they beat the Chiefs last week. That was a
Yeah.
weird game. I
Special
think
team
if I,
Chiefs.
yeah, I mean it almost like a fluke. Matt Ryan looks like a 55-year-old out there. He doesn't look very good. Jonathan Taylor has been, a ghost since the first game. But same on the Titans end. They have no receivers, and their quarterback is not very good.
Hmm.
They have Derrick Henry, who hasn't really been playing that efficient, but everyone knows they're just going to run it. They don't have anyone to throw to, and so I would probably take the Colts minus 3.5. I would love for it to maybe go down a little before game time, but yeah, if I had to pick one, it'd probably be I would do Colts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not betting this game because these two teams, I don't trust either of them at all, and it's so weird this AFC South battle. They're both not great teams. They're both play stupid at times. So I would avoid this game and just take it on the chin and bet another one. But yeah, I'm with you. But Indy at home, I think they'll win this game. I think they'll find a way to win it. But both team well, 1-1 Colts against the 1-2 Titans. So that's a
Oh,
but that game is the Super Bowl compared to this next one. The Bears at the Giants Sunday afternoon. Giants minus 2.5.
yeah, I won't be tuning into that game, but honestly, I think I'd take a
Both.
chance here and
Mm-hmm.
go. So this morning I had it was at 3. The line was at 3.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't. It might have changed, but I would take the Bears at +3. I think. I mean, they don't throw the ball much. They're just running.
They've thrown 15 passes in the last 2 weeks.
I don't really understand it. Do they not? Do they think he's that horrible at throwing, or do
It's
they?
it's
I guess they don't really. They don't have much for receivers to begin with, but
receivers stink. I feel bad for Justin Fields. Like he's just getting worse every week because they don't let him throw.
no, exactly. And but the Giants are not very good either. I know they just lost Sterling Shepard. Basically, their whole plan is going to be Saquon, 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 and I know Daniel Jones is going to fumble. He's going to have an interception. It's coming. I can feel it. I like the Bears at +3 in this game. I think if they love to run the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and if Montgomery or Khalil Herbert could explode for a game like they've already had, I think they'll cover this pretty easily.
Yeah, I don't mind taking a risk on the Bears either, just because the pass rush is pretty good for the Bears. The Giants' offensive line, as we just saw, is horrible because the Cowboys just made Daniel Jones run for his life. Yeah, I mean both quarterbacks are not that, but Daniel Jones is due for a game where you're just like, oh, this is why we're not going to pay him. And the crazy thing though, Walk, is that one of these two teams is going to be 3-1, and they may be the worst 3-1 team in NFL history.
The most fraudulent 3-1 team of
Yeah.
all time.
Yes.
I cannot believe that one of these teams will be 3-1.
Yeah.
It's absolute garbage. Two of the worst teams in the league.
But I'm rooting against the Bears. Openly say that because I have a bet futures about them having the worst record in the NFL. But I'm already thinking it's going to be a losing bet because Houston is just doing everything they can to get it. They
Yeah,
should
they're
have
pretty bad.
week.
I have a Speaking of Houston, I have a trade proposal. Like to well, not I don't know the iron out details, but do you think Green Bay having very little at the receiver
Hmm.
make a trade for Brandon Cooks from
Yeah,
Houston?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, the guy is just he can play with any quarterback and he'll get 1,000 yards receiving. It doesn't matter who. Like Davis Mills, get him. Anybody. Jeff Driscoll, throw him any quarterback. He'll get 1,000 yards. Green Bay could certainly use him. Yeah, I think it's kind of up to him. Because he said in the past he's been on so many different teams and he's been traded and whatnot. But if I'm Green Bay, I would certainly look into it because I don't think OBJ is going to cold ass Green Bay, Wisconsin in November to join Aaron Rodgers. I don't buy that.
No, and I don't think OBJ is a very good option for a number one receiver anymore. Anyways,
Right.
uh, like you saw with the Rams, he had a lot of success because he was the number two guy.
Hmm.
Whereas in Cleveland, I know Baker Mayfield isn't very good, but he 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 was super inefficient as the wide
Yeah.
receiver one. So yeah, I thought about that. I thought it'd be a
No, I like it.
sneaky good option.
No, I like that.
Well, if they Aaron Rodgers, if you hear this, go to your
Yeah.
management. Ask for Brandon Cooks.
Credit you.
Yeah. Send me some royalties or something.
Yeah, royalties on the touchdowns. Every touchdown's 10 grand in your pocket. One another really good game of the week. Jacksonville at Philadelphia. Last time I checked, I had Philly minus 6.5. Is that what you had on your book?
Yep.
I find this crazy that it's 6.5. I'll start it off before I pivot to you. Hammer the Jags, my Jags, Trevor Lawrence, that defense. I think Philly could still win this game, but I like Jacksonville enough that they're gonna cover on the road again.
Oh yeah, I'm all in on the Jags. The prince that we were promised is here.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing phenomenal. Their defense has been really good. Their offense has been, very good.
Mm-hmm.
They honestly they're one defensive malfunction away from being 3-0. Like
Yeah.
they should have beat Washington. And that game really screwed me in week one. But yeah, the
Ditto.
six and a
Ditto.
half. I cannot believe they have this at 6.5. The Eagles are good, but they haven't really played. I don't think they've played an offense as good as Jacksonville yet, or a defense as good. To be quite honest, they haven't really had too stiff a competition. But also with the Eagles is they tend to score a lot early the first half and do absolutely nothing in the
Yeah.
second half. So yeah, I love the Jags plus 6.5. I have a good future on them. Jags to win regular season wins over 6.5.
I have
I
that one
uh,
too. Mhm.
I feel very confident about that. I also hammered them to win the division
Mhm.
last week. Hammered that, so I'm high on the Jags.
Yeah, last week I had the before the season. I had the Jags over the same win total. I had them winning the division, and I put Trevor Lawrence over 20. It was 22.5 touchdown passes. So I think he's already got 6 on the season. So he's on a good start to the season. He only had 12 last year, so he's already halfway through his total all of last year. So yeah, I feel good. I feel good about the Jags. Philly, I guess I could still easily win this game, but I think Jacksonville will at least keep it close. And they just outright beat the Chargers as a dog last week, just crushed them. Another barn burner, Jets at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh -3.
Yeah, I won't be touching this game. You will never catch me betting points for Mitch Trubisky. He's been flat out horrible. I don't. Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't gone to Kenny Pickett yet, but that might be coming sooner rather than later. It's hard. It's hard for this one because I believe Zach Wilson's expected to play.
Yeah.
It's his first game back. You don't really know what he's going to be like. With Joe Flacco, you knew he was going to throw 50 times a game, maybe make 50% of them. So it's a really tough one for me. Uh, I'd probably take the Jets at +3 just because Zach Wilson's coming back. First game back, he's fresh. He might have a big game.
Hmm.
Whereas I don't want to put any faith in Mitch Trubisky whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I'd bet the Jets too. You saw Garoppolo when he came off the bench his first week. He played pretty well against Seattle, where last week it was another week he played horrible. There's a couple other instances of this season that you see a guy, he comes off the bench that next week he makes a start and it's not as good. So the first one might be really good for Zach Wilson, and then he might stink in week 5 against the Dolphins. So that's kind of where I'm leaning just based on what we've seen so far this year. But yeah, this is a game that Pittsburgh needs to win this game, quite frankly. This is a huge one for them because they got a brutal schedule after this game. They got to play the Bucks and the Eagles. They got to play the Dolphins. So tough stretch upcoming for them. Chargers, the beaten up, battered Chargers head to Houston. Houston is at +5.
I think you got to take the Chargers.
Mm,
Even if they're beaten up, I think Justin Herbert playing is enough to. I think they'll beat them by a touchdown at least. Like I can't. I don't trust Davis Mills and the Texans They come
Right.
close with them to the Chargers. I mean, they are pretty banged up. I know they have a lot of injuries. I know they have Bosa out, Slater
Later,
also
so
out,
yeah.
J.C. Jackson's out. So it's kind of tough. Is Keenan Allen playing?
He's practicing, so he's on track to play. That's what they said yesterday.
That would be big if he played. But
Yeah.
I don't see, even with the Chargers defense injured, I don't think the Texans offense is good enough to really take advantage of it. Mainly
Right.
being Davis Mills. I just don't think he's been playing that great. But I mean, I don't know. This is a tough one for me. I'd probably take the Chargers though, -5.
Yeah, this is another tough one. Yeah, but Houston's not a very good team. Except Chargers are battered, but I think they'll find a way to win. If Keenan Allen's back, he'll have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams playing. Eckler will play. I feel even more confident, Walker, if they just sat Herbert last week like they should have, or at least sat him in the fourth quarter when they were down by 30 points to the Jaguars, which made no sense why he was in the game. But yeah, I think he'll have enough weapons and they'll find a way to get by the sorry Texans. Arizona at Carolina. Carolina -1.5. Battle of two 1-2 teams.
Uh, I I honestly I think I would want to go with the Cardinals on this one.
Mm,
I don't know if you agree with this one, but I think the Cardinals have a lot more to give than what they've been giving. Uh, and it's just, the Panthers just aren't scoring enough. And I think the Cardinals, after a terrible no touchdown week last week, I think they'll come out, score a few, and also I don't know what the status on Christian McCaffrey is. I
he
believe
hasn't
he's
been
going
practicing
to.
all week.
I think they said he's going to attempt to play, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's out. I don't trust Baker,
No,
and it's based. Me personally, I wouldn't even take the points. I would go Cardinals
outright.
money line because they need to win this game. If they want a chance to make the playoffs, they need to win this game and turn things around because they've been pretty awful and their defense has been awful as well.
Yeah, everything you just said, I pretty much agree with. I'm just going off. I bet on Carolina to make the playoffs before the season started. So this is my ego coming into play here. And the only thing I can bank on is because Baker and that offense have no connection. They've been terrible through 3 weeks. They put up 3 offensive touchdowns, same as Tom Brady, I might add, but still, they've looked a little different. But I have to look at the Carolina defense, which is good. Brian Burns, you have Malcolm Brown in the middle. They're forcing turnovers. That's one thing that they are doing. They forced the Saints to turn over the ball twice last week. One was a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Kyler, will he make a mistake? Does Hollywood Brown fumble, which he does, or he'll drop a couple passes that he should have caught? Both these teams have been really underwhelming. Just ego, I'll take Carolina. But the 1.5, I mean, I would probably just take Carolina outright just for an ego bet, just to see if I could get them. You could probably get more juice on that. But through 3 games, I think Arizona has been the better team. They just both these teams are frustrating because they could. I think Carolina is better than what they've shown so far.
Yeah, I had them to win the first game uh, to cover. I don't know what the spread was. I think they were -1
Yeah,
against the Browns, and that was frustrating. Rough week one.
yeah,
Every week,
brutal.
every week's been a rough week.
Yeah. um, New England minus Mac Jones, we think, although Belichick keeps saying day by day, versus the Packers at Lambeau Field. I have Packers +9. So is that what you had in your book?
Yep, I had 9 as well.
It's so
I
weird
would
because I don't know what to think because Mac Jones has a high ankle sprain. He can't possibly play in this game.
no. There's no way he's playing. I can't imagine he's playing. And if he does, they're going to be running the ball all night.
Hmm. Yeah, but this seems like a sucker bet because it's such a high number, +9 for Green Bay. Their offense hasn't been that. I mean, Brian Hoyer, who the hell knows how he's going to play? But it's just something weird about this game to me that it just screams take Green Bay, but somehow New England will keep it close and lose.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think if I was betting on this game, I wouldn't bet the spread
Mhm.
just because like the 9 is a lot and it could go up. It could go up to 10, maybe it
Right,
goes down to 8. You never know. But I feel like the Patriots are going to play very conservative if Hoyer's playing. Like they're just gonna, run the ball, try to keep it out of Aaron Rodgers' hands as much as possible,
right.
run the clock. So I could see them. I think Green Bay will win this game without a doubt. I think it's a lock that they'll win. It's actually my survivor pick this week. But 9, it's a lot. I could see them losing by like 5 or even a touchdown. Like anything
Right.
more than a touchdown, it's really hard to justify betting the points. Honestly,
Yeah, the NFL when it's more than 7, it's something can go haywire. All those
yeah,
numbers with the Rams in week 2 and all those I said this is a sucker. I'm going to bet some of these. But yeah, knowing New England, they won't announce their starter until Sunday morning. So then it'll be a scramble from these gambling books to readjust the line and make adjustments because they're gonna. I think they'll want a bigger number than 9 if it's Brian Hoyer at quarterback. I think they'll want 10.5 or something like that. So if I would just recommend people out there bet that game now because I think
yeah.
it'll go up rather than go down in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Hoyer is announced the starter, I think it'll jump up to 10 at the
Yeah.
minimum 10. So yeah, that for me it's a stay away. I don't really like betting huge spreads like that. But speaking of huge spreads, I was looking at some of the college games this weekend.
Mhm.
Those spreads are absolutely insane. I had
Yeah.
it the Rutgers game
Yeah.
versus Ohio State. They're plus 39 and a half.
Yeah.
I I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Like
College
that
is a different world. Yeah.
big time. Big time. Big time.
Um, Denver at winless Vegas. Vegas -2.5.
I'm hammering the Raiders on this one. This is a must win for them.
Yeah.
I think their offense should be so much better than it is. The Broncos have been awful,
Yep.
absolutely awful. They're 2-1, but oh, they if they played any half decent teams, they would not be 2-1. So I have the Raiders minus 2.5. I think they're going to play with a lot of desperation, and I think they will. I think they'll cover this game. I expect a big game from Devontae Adams, who's been relatively quiet the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks, and hopefully, I don't know, is Hunter Renfro still out for this game, or
Yeah,
is
I
he
haven't heard
questionable?
anything about him this week. It's been really quiet because he had a concussion. So if we haven't heard anything, probably means he's not going to be playing.
But they still have Mac Hollins, he
He's
was
playing
really good
well.
last.
Yeah.
He was playing really good last weekend, and hopefully you get a good game from Josh Jacobs. Maybe get him in the pass rush a bit, and
Hmm.
or sorry, as a pass option. And yeah, I think the Raiders will take this one. I can't see them going 0-4. Like everyone raved and ranted about them.
Hmm.
They've been terrible up to this point, but I think they know they need to win this or they're done for the year. So I expect them to pull this one off.
Yeah, Denver has played in some of the most forgettable games so far this season with the Seattle game, and then obviously they had the game against San Francisco, which was an eyesore. I mean, saying that was an eyesore is giving being really unkind to eyesores. So I agree with you. I think Carr and Devontae Adams, they wanted to play together. I think that they've talked about it this week, how they had to get back on the same page, and they've kind of discussed how to do that and really, work on their combination. So, and Josh McDaniels already had a closed door meeting with the owner. So clearly his ass is already on the hot seat. He's only 3 games into his tenure as head coach. So Denver's defense is good. It's something that is strong. Their pass rush with Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory has been extremely strong to start the year. But I think Vegas will do enough to win this game. And like you said, I can't picture them being 0-4. They're too damn good to be 0-4. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs in this division, but they are not 0-4. Denver 3-1 difference between these two teams. So I have to go with Vegas.
Yeah, it's crazy how everyone was raving about this division, saying, "Oh, is this going to be the first time will all four teams make the playoffs?" And it looks like
Right,
maybe only one might make the playoffs.
right. And Sunday night football, we got Kansas City at Tampa Bay, which is going to take place in Tampa despite the hurricane, which has been really disastrous in that area. I had KC -1 on my book. How about you?
Yep, I had the same -1 KC, and I love that line. I'm probably going. I'm going to hammer the Chiefs -1.
Mm,
Uh, After a terrible loss to the Colts, I I don't know. I see. So the Chiefs, I think, will bounce back. They'll score a lot of points in my mind. They didn't score much last week. That they're not really known for that. They usually put up a lot. The Bucks offense has been very, very not.
suspect. Hmm.
It's been not. Yeah, it's been suspect. They haven't been putting up a lot of points at all. Tom Brady's been mediocre. Really, the only saving grace for this Bucks team has been their defense, which has been outstanding this year.
Yep.
And so I like the Chiefs at -1. I think they're going to bounce back, have a big game. Uh, Also, for my own personal betting, I had the Bucks under 11.5 wins this year. So it would be great if the Chiefs could help me out there.
Right, right. This is tricky because I hate that Kansas City's a road favorite against Tampa Bay, against Tom Brady. That just doesn't sit. What that this makes me squirm a little bit. I agree with you about the Bucks offense. Tom Brady's looked pretty horrible for 3 weeks. The offense has been bad, but he's been bad too. 3 offensive touchdowns, 3 games. That's trash. Going to get Mike Evans back. He's coming back off suspension. Chris Godwin won't be playing. We're still unclear about Julio Jones, but the way I heard a report yesterday is he could have played last week, but they held him out for precautionary reasons. So Julio will likely be playing in this game. I think the Chiefs pass rush is key to them winning because that offensive line for Tampa Bay still needs some work. It's still a work in progress for sure. I just think of that Chiefs lost last week. I haven't heard Harrison Butker is going to play, so just not having a field goal kicker
Yeah.
is a big deal as well. That can swing. Honestly, I had the Chiefs as my Super Bowl pick. This won't change it if they lose to the Bucks because I think the Bucks are very good. If the Bucks are a home dog, I love a home dog, and I take the Bucks +1.
Yeah.
I,
No,
I
that's
like.
fair
I
enough.
love. I love a home dog.
Home dog.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't mind that. I think they could win this game too. I think the thing for me is though is if the Chiefs can put up, you know,
Hmm.
24 plus, I just feel like the Bucks will have a hard time
Yeah. I
getting
agree.
up there. So
Right.
if the Bucks can hold them to 21 under, I think they'll have a chance to win this.
Should be a fun game. Two
Yeah.
really good teams on Sunday night. And we close out the week with the Rams heading to the Bay Area to play San Francisco. And I have San Francisco -1.5.
Yeah. Same. Yeah, I this is a weird line for me too because I feel like they're wanting you to bet on the Rams. I think a lot of people will be
Hmm.
hammering the Rams. at +1.5 because I think they're better than the 49ers.
Yeah.
They just came off a horrible, horrible loss.
Yeah.
Jimmy G is not really that great. Matt Stafford is way better. Uh, the Rams had a nice win over Arizona last week. I It's weird. I figured this might be more, but I guess typically if it's a like a pick 'em, most time the home favorite will have like a field. They'll give them a field goal.
Hmm.
So I feel like they're almost saying the Rams will most likely win this game. So if I'm gonna bet on it, I think I would definitely take the Rams +1.5. I think that's a great line for them, unless there's something I don't know about and they're trying to bait me. I like that line.
No Trent Williams for San Francisco, which is a huge part of
Yeah,
their team, huge part of their. They haven't been running the ball well to start this year. They've been like the Dolphins, where their head coaches have been based on the running attack, and it hasn't worked. So San Francisco needs to find that out if they're going to have any success this year, because Jimmy relies on that run game to be effective, so they can use play action. The Rams, I think they're starting to find it a little bit. They're not forcing it to Cooper Cup on every play. Ben Skowronek's been getting a few passes. Higbee, they did start to run. Cam Akers finally got some damn carries last weekend, which is about fucking dime. Enough of Daryl Henderson run the football for the Rams. I like the Rams a lot. San Francisco, to me, if San Francisco falls to 1-3, they're too good of a team to be 1-3, just on paper, how talented their roster is. But like you, I like the Rams +1.5. It's a small number. And again, if you can get I think the better team with the points, I'll take that all day, every day. Plus, they just won a road game last weekend in Arizona.
yeah. How amazing is Cooper Cup though? That guy has been an absolute stud
Hmm.
in my DraftKings. Well, he's a guaranteed 30
Win.
plus points
Right.
almost every week. Now he's been amazing. But yeah, I'd like to see the Rams Matt Stafford get it to a few guys more, like Allen Robinson. I'd really like to see him get involved more. He's been
Hmm.
very quiet, except for the second game of the season. Uh, they've been going to Higbee a lot,
Yeah.
which he's been great. But I think once they get Van Jefferson back, his targets will diminish a little as they go to him more. But yeah, I really like the Rams in this game. I just for the 49ers, they're gonna need a big game from it's their
Debo.
backup running back, Jeff
Yeah.
Wilson. They're gonna need a big game from Debo, I think, who's been kind of quiet this year.
He's been quiet and haven't been really using him in the pass game all that much,
No,
because Trey Lance wasn't throwing the ball a whole lot, and then Jimmy just he couldn't complete a pass to anybody last weekend in Denver. Neither quarterbacks could. It was that awful. But yeah, Kittle gets his second game back, so he'll help with the running attack. He's such a good blocker. So I think that's a real for the Sunday night and Monday night games. On paper, those are two excellent games. KC Tampa and Rams San Francisco. I can't complain about either of those two games.
no, and we need a good one because we've been getting some stinkers the last
Yeah,
few weeks. Those
last night
Monday,
wasn't bad, but yeah, last weekend Thursday, which was the Steelers game against the Browns, that was stunk. Sunday night was the San Francisco Denver, that stunk, and then it was the Cowboys and the G Men, which was the best one of the week, and it was still pretty bad.
I know it's been rough for the feature games this year, but well, I'm hoping this will be a good one. I like I like these games this week.
So, have you started betting college yet? College football.
This is my first weekend doing it. I've been doing some research. I'm trying to. It's tough, honestly.
Hmm.
There's so many games.
Yeah. Yes.
The spreads are wild, like
Yeah.
absolutely wild. So I'm trying to figure.
So,
I need to watch it more. Is what I need to do. But
what do you like this weekend? What are some of the games that you're thinking of betting on?
okay, so I have a couple. Duke
Okay.
-2.5 at Virginia or versus Virginia. Uh,
Right.
I like Duke -2.5.
Hmm.
Uh, San Diego Aztec +6.5 versus Boy State. I like that bet.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
don't mind.
I went I might do two crazy ones. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna do them. I was gonna do Rutgers plus 39 and a half
Yeah.
versus Ohio State
Right.
and Arkansas plus 17 versus
Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah.
I don't know
I,
if I'll do that one, but
the Rutgers one, I don't mind because they are going to get crushed. Don't no doubt about that against Ohio State. But 40 points, I mean they could pull C.J. Stroud. They could pull the starters by the third quarter. So potentially you get a break there. So I don't mind that Rutgers. I mean 40 points. My God.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I don't mind that one. Here's a few other ones that I wrote down that I find interesting this weekend for you to ponder. Real good game Sunday afternoon. Kentucky versus Ole Miss. To me, Kentucky is a really good team. They're undefeated so far. Ole Miss is also undefeated. Ole Miss is -7. I like Kentucky +7 to cover that. I think they could win the game, quite frankly. So that's Kentucky for me, +7 at Ole Miss. Another one, I like Iowa State at Kansas. My Jayhawks are +3. +3 at home, showing no respect to undefeated Kansas. I like Kansas +3. Kansas State coming off a big win versus Oklahoma. They are playing Texas Tech coming off a huge win against their rival Texas. 7.5. I like Texas Tech cover. When you get these spreads, I like these covers +7.5. Also, what other game? Indiana, who stinks, against Nebraska, who stinks. But I have one rule of thumb in betting on college football. If Nebraska is ever a favorite, you bet on the other team. A 5-point favorite at home, I will be hammering Indiana to cover that number. But those are just games I like this coming weekend.
Yeah, and I'm gonna start watching some more college football just so I get a little more familiar with the teams. There's so many.
Yeah,
So I need to get more familiar with the teams and the players so that I can make some solid bet, not just read up on the game and make a
right.
blind bet. Question for you: who would you take for a survivor pick this week in the NFL?
Whew. You said before you're thinking about taking Green Bay, right? I don't mind
Yeah,
that one at all. Um, yeah,
I kind of like the Lions.
yeah. I was just about to say the Lions. But yeah, I like the Lions. I don't mind that one. If you're feeling risky and you want to save, because who have you burned for teams so far?
So we had a two strike system buyback. So week one, I took the Jags.
Right.
I got cheated
Yes,
hard.
that was disgusting. Yeah.
Week two, I took the Broncos.
Right.
Survived that one.
Right.
And last week, I took the Ravens over the Patriots.
Right. Right. Yeah. So when you take a team, can you not use them again? Is that how it works?
No, yeah. So once you use a team, you can't use them again, and you have
Okay.
to go as long as you can.
Yeah. Thinking longevity. I mean, you're probably not going to take Detroit again. So that would be that would be a smart bet. I think you'd like to save Green Bay in a perfect world because they play the Bears again this year. You know that'll be a win. So if you could save Green Bay for week 15 or whenever they play again, I don't mind the Detroit pick or Minnesota against New Orleans because New Orleans is so banged up. I think Minnesota is a good team. I think they'll win that game. And Kirk Cousins gets worse as the year goes on, seemingly. So I think Minnesota or Detroit are both good bets.
Yeah, I no, I like that. I like that. I wish I hadn't burned one of my strikes already.
Right,
Although I would
right.
have burned it last week because I told the league I'm in, I said that if I had two strikes left, I would have taken the Texans last week, which would have burned me anyway.
um, I'd say mini Detroit, or if you're feeling frisky and you're feeling adventurous, I take the Cowboys.
Ooh.
Cooper
That
Rush.
ooh, super duper rush. I don't I don't know. I might wait till Dak's back before I take the Cowboys.
Right, right.
It's a really tough game to navigate because a lot of people get knocked out at the same time. I think in our pool last year, I think over half of the league, myself included, got knocked out after the Jets beat the Bengals.
Right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
so it's kind of hard. Like you don't always want to pick the overwhelming pick
Favorite.
that everyone's picking. Like Green Bay this week, I think
There's
over
there's an
40.
there's an upset every weekend. There's at least one every weekend that nobody sees coming. Like maybe it's Atlanta this weekend against Cleveland,
Yeah,
which would sort of be an upset. If the Jags beat Philly, I think that would be considered. I mean, the way the line is, that should be considered a big upset. They're a touchdown, underdog.
yeah.
Potentially, Vegas wouldn't be a big up there favorites. That wouldn't, but
Could be a good week to use them, but if they turn things around,
right,
yeah,
yeah. No, yeah, it should be a fun week. I like the London 10:30 start to get the day going right before you get
yes,
the 2 o'clock games.
oh yeah.
What do you before I let you go? What are your thoughts on your Capitals heading into the season, which is about 10 days away?
I don't I don't really have much expectations. I mean, I love the Darcy Kemper signing. I think he's better than what they had at net. It was
Mhm.
kind of strange to me. They got rid of both and they just let him go. They were like,
Right.
see you later. Connor Brown, love that signing. Uh, I think they'll make the playoffs. I think I'm
Last team
hoping
in.
they. No, I think they'll do a bit better than last year.
Okay.
Even in the playoffs last year, they gave Florida a pretty good, a
Yep.
decent series. They could have won that series. They had a lot of games go to overtime. Um, so I like them to make the playoffs. I think they're a first or second round exit most likely, but you never know. When we talked about this earlier, as you never want your team being talked about as a heavy favorite. When Washington was the heavy favorite for 2 3 years in a row, they always got knocked out second round.
Right.
And then the year nobody really thought much of them. That's when they won. So I don't know. I don't think they'll win the cup, but I think they'll have a decent year.
Yeah, the Rangers are really good in that division. I think Pittsburgh improved a lot on paper. We'll see if it comes together, but I think Pittsburgh's pretty good. I hated Carolina's offseason, and I'll touch on that more next week. They just got older. I don't know why. They thought it would AARP go get every old person in the NHL they went out and tried to acquire. But yeah, I think Washington's a good. I Their defense core scares me. I don't love their defense. There's a lot of guys that are fringe NHLers, and somehow I think their defense core got worse, and they got rid of Justin Schultz, so that's not a good sign.
Oof. Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of him, but yeah, their defense has always been kind of a question. They don't really have much for great defenders. I mean, John Carlson, he's an average defender. Like
Hmm.
he's an offensive defenseman, right? He thrives on the power play offense. He's mediocre defensively. I really do like Martin Ferravari though.
Hmm.
I think he's really good defensively, and I think he'll continue to get better, play big minutes. But yeah, they're just their decor is terrible. It was bad last year, and I thought that would be the first thing they would try to fix up, but I was wrong. It wasn't. They no. So they'll score a lot of goals, which is really what's been keeping them afloat. Is they're good offense who scores a lot, but they also get scored against too
Right.
much. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm excited. All the sports are starting. It's going to be like
Hmm.
a good mixture of every sport here soon.
No, I agree. Baseball playoffs start next week. We got the NHL in a week Tuesday. NFL is going. Basketball just a week after the NHL. So lot coming, and should be a fun season for your Lakers with Pat Bev and Russell Westbrook getting into fistfights on the sidelines every other night at Staples. But Walker, I know you're a busy guy with the kids and everything you got going on and work. So I appreciate you finding the time for me, and we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been great to be back, talk some football. I can finally share my frustrations with somebody. So hopefully we have a good weekend for betting
Yes,
and let's win some money.
absolutely. Yes. Well,
Your Matt buddy Matt has been given some hot winners, so hopefully I can
no,
follow in that trend.
you got some pressure now.
I
But if you
know.
do better, then people might be clamoring for you more. So
Maybe. I've been
you can push
spewing
them out.
hot garbage the last 3 weeks, and I need to apologize to my brother Parker because I've been giving him all the bad picks.
Well, he's probably done some bad stuff to you in the past, so he probably
Probably.
deserved it, right?
Yeah, yeah, he deserved it.
Us older siblings, they deserve what they get. The young
I
people.
might give him some bad lines this week.
Tell them the
I'll,
Patriots +9,
Patriots +9, Seahawks +4,
Houston, yeah.
Houston money line.
Well, I'll talk to you soon and take care, buddy.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Thank you to Walker Campbell for joining us. Awesome to have him back on. Really good insight today from him. And yeah, I mean that was a great chat. Really enjoyed that, and I hope you guys did too. As we head into week 4 of the NFL season, coming up next week, a lot of breakdowns in the NHL. We'll talk. Monday's gonna be a football day. Seamus will be back. We'll talk about the Pacific Division next weekend. Next week, I'm also gonna do the Metro and the Central Division previews for the National Hockey League. We'll also, as we get close to the NHL season, we'll talk about predictions, our top 10 players list. I'll come up with that soon. That's all coming up in the next couple weeks. So lots of content there. Talk college football Monday. Just a lot happening in the sports world. And we got to enjoy the good stuff. Obviously, the two of it all last night was so terrible, and I hope he can make a speedy recovery. But there's still the games go on, as they say, the show must go on, and we will do that next week with hockey on the horizon and football front and center as well. So everybody have a great weekend. It's October already, if you can believe it. October 1st tomorrow. But have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday here on To The Point.